And we are live. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you may be.
So I'm still doing my homework. It's always like, hi teacher, just frantically making notes as class starts.
Like doing it on the bus before you get in.
Yeah.
Just as we would do like in normal life. It's Wednesday, my dudes. And that means it's time for another Hub Games Hangout with us, your delightful hosts. I am the one, the only Michael Fox over there, the beautiful and noble Rory O'Connor. How are you doing today, Rory?
I'm good. I had been planning to shave before the show, and then I kind of thought it was actually kind of fitting, given our guests' stunning beards.
You feel a bit shamed.
I have not. This is the longest my facial hair has gotten in ever.
Well,
I'm not shaved for like a week and a half.
As far as I can see, Rob's beard is the best. I know.
If I go like this, it looks like it's infinite.
Well, that's what I'm saying, Rob. If you just spend your whole time crouching, you could just pretend it goes down to your feet, and you'll be fine.
It's actually all the way down the window. I'm waiting for a prince to climb up.
I doubt that. Apparently, Rory's hair looks a bit wild, and Michael is very underbearded. Yeah, I'm like, baby face compared to you three, who are like these fine, upstanding testosterone factories.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, we also have guests. Below me, you can see the wonderful Henri Kermarrec, the designer of one of our fabulous and lovely games, which is Blank, the card game. Henri, could you tell us a little bit about you? Where you're from? Where are you right now?
Okay, right now I'm in Brittany. It's like Britain, but it's a little one. It's a country that, some people say it's in France, but it's not really official. So we continue pretend that we have our own country. Some guys. I'm right here in my office, as you can see. I've tidied up a bit because we're going live public. And my God, that's all. I'm game designer of many games, such as Blank and others. Maybe 20 games. And I'm also graphic designer for the board game industry and game design teacher in a video game school in Paris now for 2 years.
Ah, nice. Ooh. Sorry, I'm very tempted to make you go full screen so I can spy at the games on your back shelves. I always like trying to work out what people have got there.
I can push myself for a better view,
I can see Pylos in the background.
Yeah, I see a lot of Gigamic and I see Dragon Castle.
Yeah, I had my abstract period. Well, no, period is not maybe the same word as in French.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Like Van Gogh. And his period.
I don't know. At the beginning, when I was learning, when I wanted to make games, I used to go to the basics, so the Gigamic, and I fell in love with all the abstracts. It was very elegant. So I wanted to start some sort of a collection. So that's why all the Gigamic are over there. I got Project GIF too.
Oh, nice.
I did a few things like that. And I do not practice abstract games anymore a lot because I do not have players to play with. I mostly play with more kids, and so we have played different games as they grew up. So right now, I've got that. But on the other side, you have, maybe you don't see them. You have all the remains of my.
Oh, Imperial Assault, Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, that's it. Space Hulk, Imperial Assault, Claustrophobia, all the dungeon things.
Is that a Chaos in the Old World I see as well?
It is, with the expansion. It's a great game. Just a great game. I love it. One of my favorites. Much better than Blood Rage, in my opinion. But
agreed. It's a damn good game.
Yeah,
very good indeed.
Such a symmetry, controlled, beautiful.
Yeah, it's superb. Meanwhile, with no games behind him, is Rob.
They are they're behind a wall, so technically they are behind me, just not visible.
Do you not,
Then
Rob? This is
avoid-
like a board game stream. You are meant to have a wall of them behind you,
I
like,
didn't get the
primed
brief.
and ready.
You didn't get
I'm
that
sorry.
memo.
I can't really grab any. Don't have any nearby, I'm afraid.
That's all right.
But I do have a big board collection in the other room. So
Cool.
yeah.
So you are obviously
rivaling yours, but
well, but who would? Especially Rory. Rory's got thousands. That entire room that Rory's in is full of them, and it's very, very nice. But Rob, you are a little bit closer to us compared to Henri over in Brittany. Who are you, and why are you here?
so I'm Rob Barratt. I think I live in Belfast, although I've not left the house really in a year and a half, so I'm not entirely sure anymore what's outside there. But I'm presuming it's Belfast. And I moved here 3 years ago, and the first person I met when I came to Belfast was Michael. And then obviously through Michael I met Rory. We go to various board game groups, or I should say we went to lots of board game groups before the pandemic. And yeah, we just, see each other quite a lot through that. I'm here today because I've been playing a lot of Blank, and I've kind of created a Frankenstein of a game, and that's what we're going to be talking. But I do also play a lot of other board games as well, although at the moment not so much in person, mostly online. I don't know. Have you guys used Board Game Arena to play online at all, or what? Yeah,
No.
no. Okay.
I use it a bit. It's good for. They've got a really, really nice interpretation of Seven Wonders on there that I very much enjoy playing, and a really nice Can't Stop as well, which is super easy to get a good pickup game on every once in a while.
Something my friends and I have started doing recently is we're going to the beta sections, the game that they're just kind of testing out, releasing, and we just pick a random game and we play it without reading any of the rules, and it's a very chaotic experience, but quite fun.
So hang on, do you just start making the rules up, or do you just say you dive in and start learning the rules to play
You
the game?
dive in and you start learning the rules. And usually, you can play small games, and usually you can pick it up quite easily if you've played enough games.
Yeah.
But then we have played a few hour-long games, and you're just there like, oh, there's so many pieces here, and I do not understand any of them. So it does happen.
That's kind of
It's like a roulette.
Guess the rules when you look at the content of a game. I love doing that, but that leads to being deceived, disappointed a lot of time, because usually the rules are not exactly what you wanted to, and you say, oh no, that was better in my head.
I can do better than this.
That's not what I said, but it was.
That's what you implied.
It was just a dream.
Okay.
So, Henri, have you actually been managing to play anything while you've been hidden away in your room?
The thing is, I play a few games with family, as I said, with my girls, but not that much, because they have other things to do, school, and all that. And sadly, I don't play much board games with my family, because I work on board games all day as a graphic designer and game designer. So it's after 12 years, it's been like a job to me, and so I don't want to play that much. But I play with Tabletop Simulator. We're a lot with because I'm part of a game designer collective here in Brittany, and so we used to meet in a bar every Wednesday evening. And so every Wednesday evening we just meet on Discord and Tabletop Simulator to continue to work on our prototypes. So I mostly play prototypes from my friends every Wednesday. That's pretty much it. And I work a bit on my games, and I review my students' games and all that. So I've got a lot of games to play around, but it's mostly not finished games and bad games, and that's it.
Helping to shape the future.
So you mentioned you teach game design. Is that as part of a video game course, or as a tabletop game?
It's purely tabletop, because in the first year of the video game school, they want the students to learn tabletop first. Because the essence of what makes a good game is the same in a tabletop game and in a video game. So students will be, it's more easy to craft rules and change the material and content on tabletop. You just, with a piece of paper, a few pounds, you can make a game. You don't have to develop anything, to code anything, So I'm pure game design with the students, and that's great because I'm their first approach with game design.
Mm-hmm.
It's purely tabletop. So I'm making the difference of what makes specific ergonomy from tabletop and what they will be using for video games. But I'm trying to make generic rules of what makes a good game.
Mm-hmm.
Because in a tabletop game and in a video game, it's not the same thing. Gratification, pleasure, some obstacles, and some control or the randomness or not, like thought in a dish or things like that. Very interesting. Very
Mm-hmm.
interesting.
And I have to say, the last time we saw each other was at Cannes, wherein you and your fellow game designers kind of took me under your wings and brought me to the playtest nights, which were incredible. Like walking into that hall and seeing all of those games. And I don't know if this is accurate or not, but I've always had the sense that French game designers have like a different kind of like aesthetic to game design. Like sometimes the themes or the gameplay kind of feels different to me than what I often see coming out of the US.
No, I don't know, because I've never been to New York Toy Fair or Gen Con or things like that. Never been in the US at all. But so I can't talk about the US. But in France, maybe at the time we had some French touch or something like that. But it's not really true anymore. We were maybe some early designers like Antoine Bozat, Bruno Catala, and all that had some tries to take to take the best of both worlds. The German board games and American board games, the theme and the elegant mechanics and épure. How do you say that in English? Épure, to make things simple and elegant. Well, okay. So maybe it was true at the time. It's not anymore, because this kind of design is now made by a lot of designers all around the world, Americans, English, Asians. A lot of designers have integrated all that strong theme with elegant mechanics. So it's not really true anymore. So I don't think we have a French touch anymore, but we're just trying to make games. Well, maybe it's because I'm in it, so I can't look at it from.
I would argue, again, I can't point to specifics, but there's obviously cultural differences between with French culture, and I think there's a je ne sais quoi to me that kind of pops up in French games, and I suppose when I'm walking around Cannes and seeing like all of the new games being presented, for me, I find it really refreshing compared to when I'm at like North American conventions. There's just something in the themes of the game that I find like, that's kind of quirky and different and playful in a way that I don't often see elsewhere.
Well, maybe that's a false image I have, but maybe in America they use a lot the same strong theme like dungeons and all that imaginary culture, heritage, legacy, from Dungeon and Dragon and medieval fantasy and all that, and science fiction, all the canons, Yeah, maybe French publishers try to put themes to go and search themes that are a little bit original. Maybe. Yeah.
Well, we'll stop there before we dig ourselves a hole.
Rob, what about you? Have you been managing to do anything, like aside from chaotically wandering into Board Game Arena and just pushing a button and hoping?
Yeah. Well, you see, the only person I really see at the moment is my fiancée, Neve, who does not enjoy board games, at least not as much as I do. And I think the fact that I really enjoy board games has made her enjoy board games even less somehow, which has not been very helpful. So I usually tend to play big, complex, probably like Euro games, like something a bit more heavier, I guess. While she prefers lighter games, and therefore we've kind of settled for more lighter games. But one game we've actually been playing quite a lot, and I don't know how I managed to convince her to play this, but she likes it as well, is Terraforming Mars. She's a geographer, so maybe that's kind of why she's enjoying it a lot. But I quite enjoy it because obviously there's a lot of engine building in it as well, and it's a bit of a beefy game as well, which is quite nice. So we've been playing a lot of that, and we've got a few expansion packs as well, which help with the gameplay. But apart from that, there's stuff like Patchwork we've been playing a bit of. That's a recent addition. A lot of Blank, actually, because it is quite an easy two-player game as well. And I don't know, that's kind of it, really. Not as much as I would like to. But
Anita refers to, we've only played Terraforming Mars like a handful of times, and each time we've played it wrong. There's been like some rule we got wrong that made the game last for ages. But she kind of called it Monopoly in space.
That's a good description of it. No, we I obviously quite enjoyed the engine building mechanic. So I'm always I always try to make it last as long as possible. Because with engine building, you build up an engine and then eventually it gets going and you're like, okay, I want this to go on forever. So she's desperately trying to finish the game. And I'm there like, I'm going to play all my cards and add more to my engine. I'm not going to do any other things that progress the game. It's quite fun.
Have you tried Jaipur? That's one that I've found works really well as a two-player.
Yeah, I've got it actually. It's nice actually. There's an app of it as well. I tried that. It's quite good. It's a nice, easy little. We tried it a few years ago, and then it's not really featured recently. But maybe I should pick it up again. Got it in the other room, so it's good.
It has been republished, maybe not more than 1 year ago, I think.
Was it Space Cowboys who did the new version of it, I think? Or
maybe because Sébastien Pochon is now more in Space Cowboys that in his previous publishing.
But yeah, I've got that new version now. It's very lovely. If we ever get to start traveling to shows again, Rory, it's coming with us, and we will be playing it for sure.
Is it just art, and it's not a gameplay difference, is it?
No, it's exactly the same game. Just a bit of a lick of paint, let's say. A bit of a polish on the artwork. But it's really lovely. Absolutely fantastic game.
Yeah, it's one as well. It's quite simple, but actually there's quite a lot of thinking you have to do behind as well. So it's really easy to pick up the rules, but actually play it well is quite complicated, I find. It's quite fun. It means you can play with anyone, but you can still get a lot of replayability from it.
Very true. You've been doing anything, Rory? Anything thrilling and exciting?
Of course, I'm always doing stuff. Whether it's game related, I don't know. My finished painting a batch of figures finally for Test of Honor, which have turned out really well. And that was me procrastinating on testing out a concept for combining D&D and Untold together. I have a live stream interview. Well, I have an interview tomorrow with the Family Gamers to talk about it. I'm like, I have to get my homework done. So before this call, I was making myself play through it. It takes there's kind of mental gymnastics to do because I don't know D&D that well. As a kind of a DM, so I'm kind of going, can I do this? Can I do that? But it's really satisfying, kind of see how things work out and rolling the dice to see, whether it works or not. So my kind of very quickly, my gnome wizard intercepted a giant who was chasing these scouts towards the kind of kingdom by, no way of taking on a giant. So he basically cast a firebolt and set his loincloth on fire, causing him to kind of stop, to kind of put it out and buying the scouts a bit more time to get closer. And now they've just hidden behind a kind of randomly rolled the story cubes behind a toppled prison cart where the driver had been abandoned. And literally before I started the call, they've ducked in behind this and hopefully they're going to hide from the giant as he continues to pursue the scouts towards the castle. So yeah, that's been kind of fun. And I have...
Well, that happened to you alone?
Yeah, I'm just playing solo.
Wow.
I mean, making
it's terrifying, Henri.
How many time to all of that to happen? Half an hour?
Yeah. maybe an hour, I think, because I'm looking up books and checking some things. But yeah, I'm just like I roll the story cubes at the beginning of Untold, and it sets up the kind of the story, and then I'm just resolving.
I've backed your campaign, you know.
Yes. So yeah, like it. I mean, we'll do a separate session on it. But Untold basically gives you a very constrained adventure, and this is literally the opening scene. So the scene opens with my heroes traveling towards the court, and these scouts kind of come like barreling past them, being chased by this giant, and they're like, "What the hell?" And so they tried to help by casting that firebolt, and now they're going to run and hide. Yeah, it's been kind of interesting to play it, and that's kind of been my time. Michael, I've actually got the Moon Knight custom deck for Marvel Champions gone to print, and I'm printing out some alternative art Hawkeye based on the David. I'm going to pronounce his name wrong in front of Henri. David Aya. I think it's AJA. Who illustrated Hawkeye with Matt Fraction. So there's an alt art set for Hawkeye that uses just that artwork. So I'm going, that totally is the version of Hawkeye I'm going to play with in Marvel Champions.
Yeah, you should let us know how the Moon Knight deck is. I know it's got a lot of interesting, weird, and wonderful stuff happening with it, with the different personas. So, yeah, that'll be cool.
Well, I've printed a copy for you, so you'll be getting one as well.
Even better. Life is great when you get presents. I'm trying to think of what I've been doing. Play-wise, not a lot. On last Friday's stream, we actually did a playthrough of a game designed by one of the folks who is often hanging around on my stream called Yard Builder. A really lovely roll and write that it's the only roll and write I know that uses D20s. But basically, you roll 3 D20s and then you're filling in this either 5x5 or 5x7 grid of different house elements. So, like bits of the house, pathways, gardens, decking, that sort of stuff. But it's very, very, very smooth, very easy to play. Like there's 10, 12 of us playing on stream at a time, that sort of thing.
Wow.
And it's really just super simple to explain at the start of the stream, and it's available for like $3 or whatever for folks to pick up the files themselves. But it's just like I really love how so many people have gone into working on roll and writes that can be played by groups over Zoom or on a live stream or on a call or whatever. There's definitely been a lovely growth in them over the last, particularly the last sort of 6 months, once people realized that COVID was here probably for a while. And it was cool. And it's nice seeing this sort of explosion in creativity in the people who are actually hanging around on my channel, which is all good. Was that shouting at your background or was that Henri's?
No,
it was Henri's.
Sorry. I can't tell them to just shut the fuck up a bit, no?
That's fine.
Sorry, my girls, it's time to sleep, all that washing kids.
It's fine. I love the amount of times we've been on calls and then people apologize for their kids' behavior. I had one where I was talking to our accountant and their child came in naked. Now they were off camera, but oh my god, get dressed. I was like, it's fine.
I
like seeing the humanity of people.
It reminds me what you said, Michael. This great game was played with all sort of dice. That was Button Man.
Oh, Button Man.
Button Man, yeah.
Yeah.
From James Ernest. I love that design. I think it's a pure elegance. And I thought many times about plagiarizing this fucking game because it's the heart of a game system. It could be the heart of a lot of things. And I 2 or 3 times I started to write a mail to James Ernest, which I don't know in life at all. Just saying, I'm just a little game designer, wanted to do something with the game, but I never did. But this system with the dice, and you choose to attack, combine, to adjust the points. It's brilliant. I loved it. And it started just as the kind of thing you say. It was cheap, It was just meant to be played in conventions with your pin and all that. That's great concepts. I love those concepts. That doesn't involve a lot of money and have a lot of game value. I love it.
It's fantastic. Sorry, you go.
We don't say steal. We say be inspired by.
Yeah. Okay. We draw inspiration. No plagiarizing. We draw inspiration.
Yeah. Well, we have some things that we say with my fellow designers. It's when you're inspired by a lot of people that had the same idea. It's inspiration. When this idea was the property of one person alone, it's plagiarism.
Okay.
So you need to wait for other people to plagiarize, and then there's enough people, and then it becomes inspiration.
That's it, and you can do it honestly. Yeah.
Okay, nice.
Well, a lot of times I had some questions about all that concerns, because I was until recently and with the Union of French game designers. And a lot of amateurs or beginners in game design were all afraid of to see the ideas stolen, So you have to say to them, okay, well, no, don't be bothered, don't be afraid, the market is okay and all that. But it's kind of a thing. It's really one of the biggest questions at the center of our market, because it is self-balancing the market on this question, but it could not be the way at all. If some wolves enter the ship, how do you say? I don't know, but see what I mean. But it could be well worse than that. So that's really a big question in creation, because we use a lot of mechanics from the games, and that's okay. That's the part of the work, That's okay. We share. If you have to admit that your ideas will be taken by others because you took ideas from others in the first place. That's how it works. That's not easy to admit. That's for some.
Jos asks, what was the title of the James Ernest game? It is called Button Men, Jos. I've played it a few times. The version I played most recently was one that was specifically built around the Sailor Moon Crystal anime. Yeah, it's a bit weird, but it's a great system. And yeah. We should probably dig into that at one point. That'd be really, really cool to sort of look into it a little bit more. See if we get James on.
I had 14 friends that came to my house for a birthday, and I had made a system where the battlement system was used just as a combat system, and I had a gigantic map with territories and all that, and I had a school of magic and all the stuff that you can see in big conquest games and all that. But essentially, it was just duels of battlemen, and we play all the night, with duels, and just to see our troops and things advance on the big maps. That was great. It could work like that too.
Wow.
That's superb. All right, shall we get talking about Blank, y'all?
Yeah.
All right. So Rory, as ever, you are the captain of this ship. The reason we're here. So what's the idea behind today's discussion?
Well, I think the idea came from, we've had conversations with Rob before, who has played very early versions of Blank. When we were playtesting, I think, Rob, you were kind of testing it along with us, and have become a big fan. And we've heard stories of this beast of a game that you've created, which kind of makes me personally very excited. We see lots of different versions of the game, and quite often it's very kind of light and party-esque. But I think, as far as I know, you're the person who's taken it the furthest. So
the reason why we actually had this conversation was because recently I was hiring a lawyer.
Oh yeah, that's what it was.
That's what it came across. So I was hiring a lawyer, and actually, I'm still talking to a lawyer. I'm meant to be getting a draft contract that everyone who plays the game of blank will have to sign. I posted it on Facebook looking for a lawyer, and that's when we got talking, and that's how this evening has come around essentially.
So before we kind of jump into that, I want to ask Henri. So Blank is your baby, which you kind of graciously allowed us to publish and develop as well, and it's our adopted child as well. But I'd love to hear from you first. Like, what was the inspiration for Blank, and kind of what's been your hope for it as a game?
Okay. Well, the thing was, at the whole beginning, it was a present for a friend, a lady game designer. It was a 30 birthday, yeah. And she had invited a lot of friends, maybe 20, 30, I don't know, to come for a weekend in a house in Brittany and all that. And I was attending this birthday with a group of fellow game designers too, and I wanted to offer her a game that I made. But, well, no, the thing I'm mistaken. It's his boyfriend that had commissioned our collective to make a game for her, and it was a few months before, and maybe 1 or 2 weeks before, we still had nothing. So one morning I said, okay, what will I do? So I made this. The goal was, it was an idea that was in my head for a long time, a few months. I wanted to, I was amazed by legacy games, the thing where you destroy and you modify the game, and it's a unique experience. I love it. I love it when we allow game designers to lay down the thing of replayability. The games are not always algorithm. It's stories too. It can be. So the thing was a game that would be modified by her friends. It would be a legacy game, but most legacy game at that time was big games, like the one with pirates, like the Risk Legacy and all that big games. So I wanted to have a take of legacy game, but on really family game, just like the things like you play traditional games and all that. So Crazy 8 was my first pick, and Uno for sure, same thing. But it's traditional game. It's played a lot, and it's very easy to learn. So I wanted to use that kind of game because it's known by everybody. So people don't have to learn that rules; they already know it. So you can ask them the work to create some new rules because they do not have to learn the first one in the first place. So that was the intention. I made that game that was based on the skeleton of just not the same colors and numbers because the was based on the traditional deck of cards, 4 suits, a lot of numbers, etc. And if we create game on, if we have to create rules on the game, I didn't want to have to ask the players to think statistically about the potentiality of the rules. So there had to be the same number of colors and numbers. I didn't want them to think, well, there are only some kinds of green, but more 6. So what is better? Don't run all that. So same number of colors and numbers was the big rule. And after that, it was pretty much it. It was done. It was all in the idea. I put up a few few rules, for the basic rules and the penalty, because that's the fun part of the game. Of course, the penalties. That's it. And customize a few cards of the deck, a few numbered cards. But that's pretty much it. After that, I brought it to the birthday. We played it an whole evening, and it was good. So I said, okay, it's good.
What sucker will license this game?
It's when I first designed it, I was hesitating because it's how do you know in English? It's a scam. It's an escroquerie. It's when you rob people, you know. It's no genius thing or a scam, or maybe it's a bit of both, you know. That was also a thing because my wife came one day from the bookshop with a book with a story in it, and one of the 2 pages was blank, and it was you let your children draw and color the story of the book, but it was €20 anyway. And I say, what? Sorry, €20 and no illustrations, no art, just blank pages. That's a scam. But that's great. That's genius, you know, because I know my girls would have much fun to draw the story and that. That was a great idea. But that was a scam also. You know, it's a bit of both, just like blank. So that's how it's
like how Henri is freely admitting that, yeah, my game is an entire scam. You do the work, it's fine.
But actually, like a large part of the aesthetic and our development of the game was to not have that response, you know, because that's what some people reviewing the game say. Oh, you're, like some reviews are like, you expect us to make the game?
It's like, no, we expect you to enhance the game, to craft it within your own way.
I think that's the appeal of it.
We give some tools. We did some work.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rob. I just
no, it's okay. I was saying the simplicity of it was kind of what draws you in. Really, it's exceptionally simple. Everyone kind of knows how to play Uno, so it's not really difficult to get people to play it. And I think when you first start with it, you just think, oh, this is a very simple game. But then the beauty of it happens throughout the times you play it and you play it and you play it. And then slowly it starts becoming much more interesting and much more exciting because you've added more to it and it's becoming more complicated. But I think you need that simplicity at the start because otherwise it would be overwhelming at the start and you wouldn't play enough of it to be able to get the cards in that you need to actually get it kicking, essentially.
Yeah.
And people will design the take 2 cards and take 4 cards for once. And after that, once it's done, they will start to have some imagination. They will. So if they play enough, well, yes, they will discover the whole potential of the game for sure.
I kind of love the self-correcting element of the game where it's like it's very slow iteration. With every new rule, you're correcting a counter rule.
Oh man!
So I think that's probably a good setup for you, Rob. Do you have like an overall pitch or kind of conceit for the game, or is it just like a monster that's grown?
So this is the thing. So obviously it evolved slowly through time. It's not like we planned it from the start to be a monster. It just kind of has slowly evolved from one card to the next. And basically I like to think of this particular version of Blank that I have as a constant struggle between chaos and order. Because if you play the game, it is very chaotic. There's a lot going on that kind of breaks the game constantly. But actually, there's a lot of cards that are specifically being designed to try to balance that out and actually make it playable. And it took us about 50, 60 games, but I think we've got to a stage where pretty much anyone could write any card they wanted, and that would still fit within the game. It wouldn't break it, it wouldn't destroy it, because you've got a whole system around it that can support whatever crazy thing you come up with. So it's this constant battle between... We had proper phases of moments when we kind of went, okay, we'll do whatever we want, and we started adding crazy rules that made complete nonsense and broke the game. And then afterwards going, okay, actually, we probably should fix this, and then starting adding cards that are more stabilizing cards that kind of balance it out again. So
Rob, could you give us like an example then?
Yeah.
Like, so what? Like, give us an example of something that you just like threw in there that really took the game in a left turn.
So I need to find it because I've got 2 decks actually, because we ran out of cards at the end, so we had to put more cards in. But so like I think the first things that when we first bought the game, we just kind of added like, you know, normal silly cards, like if you shout giraffe loud enough, you can throw away cards, that kind of stuff. And then my brother Stefan added a card. I wonder if I can find it quick enough, but a card called blank points. And the card called blank points essentially meant that if you played a card with a printed, one of these, say, one with a printed image,
The pre-illustrated ones. Yeah.
the pre-illustrated ones, you could put that card. Oh, here it is. This is the blank card. This means if somebody plays a printed card, you can put that card in front of you, and if you get 10, you win the game.
Okay.
So you have blank points. That's pretty straightforward, collecting points. Very easy. So then I thought, I want my own points. So I put anti-blank points in. Okay. So this was like game 4 or 5, right? And anti-blank points, if you have the anti-blank point card, it becomes a rule. And then essentially the blank points are not blank points anymore. They become anti-blank points. And you can use them to make people draw cards. So you already got like a system, and you're counteracting, and this is just the start. I mean, so we have that.
So, so I'm going to kind of pause there. Like that to me, I think I've seen this a couple of times with, kind of game design in general and blank, where some element is added in, and it's just like that's the kind of ignition, and it takes the concept off in a different direction. And it sounds like that was that kind of blank points the start of that.
Yeah, because then you had other cards. We had like other cards that mentioned blank and anti-blank. But the problem is the deck is quite big, so those cards wouldn't come out very often. So we started adding cards that would specifically either draw blank or anti-blank cards from the deck, or alternatively replace the rule cards with cards that mention blank or anti-blank. So ways to get those cards to come out more often and therefore make it more fun. So you started having those cards that kind of were very, very, very strong, and that would pull stuff out. But those cards in themselves aren't really fun cards. They're serving a purpose of getting the other cards out. And that's
they're like trainer cards in Pokemon. They serve a function.
Yeah. And then kind of that started it all off. And then we had like other cards that targeted players. And actually, there's something quite ironic was that one of the main catalysts for making this game chaos was the pre-made cards, because there were some pre-made cards that were clashed with what we already had. So, for example, we've got the Sandcastle card. That was a very big card starting off the game of blank. Because the Sandcastle card, for those who have not played blank, says that you can ignore cards that are targeted towards you, essentially. And that obviously, if you're trying to create a deck which is chaotic and targets everyone and does all kinds of weird stuff, that gets in your way, it stops you from targeting someone. So we started creating cards that would destroy other cards to counteract that. And we would have all kinds of cards that would destroy that. And we would say, you can ignore the effect, but if you're destroying the card, then that card is gone. So we had to have it up with like a bit of house rules and that kind of thing. So then we had destroy cards, and that kind of started, you could destroy basically anything. New rule card comes up, destroy that. Something else comes up, destroy that.
Can I stop you there?
Henri's face is looking great.
Two questions. So when you say
great idea.
Yeah.
When you say destroy, were you literally like tearing up the card?
No, not in that sense. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to disappoint you, because we do want the cards to stay. But one of the cards that came on quite early on, and it's one of my favorite ones, are the Drums of Doom. Okay, so this card here, Drums of Doom. There's a lot of text, so there's no point in reading.
Can you hold it up for a second?
Mike, hold it up. I'll full screen it. There you go.
Yeah. So my handwriting is terrible. Okay.
Hang on, let me see if I can read it. At any point, you can draw 5 cards to summon the Drums of Doom.
Yeah.
Take this card from wherever it is. Destroy any card. Can be summoned twice.
Only by each player.
Okay.
Yeah. So you started having things like this.
That's great.
So just mechanically, I want to kind of make sure I've got the understanding right on the people listening.
Yeah.
So at any point, no matter where that card is, so you have to know the card is in the deck.
Yeah. So this is a bit of an issue. You kind of have to play the game a few times to really get your head around it. But I really like the look on someone's face when they're playing it for the first time and they go, right, I've got a Sandcastle, or I put this cool rule into play, and I'm like, I don't like that. I summoned the Drums of Doom. And you go through the deck and you draw 5 cards. And to be honest, at this point, drawing 5 cards is nothing at this point because the game doesn't evolve about the cards anymore. So you draw 5 cards and you find a Drum of Doom, and sometimes like it's in other people's hands and you just take them out of their hand, and there's all kinds of weird things like that, which is quite fun. So that was kind of like a destructive phase that we had where a lot of the cards were being just destroyed. So in a way, like we decided that basically rule cards didn't matter too much because if you had a rule card, it was really easy to get rid of them. We had like a lot of discard all rule cards, a lot of stuff like that. So we just started basically creating a load of effect cards that acted as rule cards somehow. So you play the card and it's now a rule card. It stays in play as a rule card. It says on the card, play as a rule. And we started having, basically we decided to change the game up. So we're basically creating completely new games within the game. There's one called Game Change where you give out the entire deck. Everyone gets all the cards. You can't draw anymore. And you can just keep on playing until no one can play anymore. And at which point, at that point, whoever has the least cards wins.
Okay.
Yeah. But what would happen was that somebody would get to play that card. Everyone would get all the deck in their hands. And then somebody would destroy that card that had just been played. So no one has all the decks in their hand. So suddenly you have like literally like that much of a deck in your hand, and you're trying to get rid of them, but you've got too many. Because
I love how you have gone from like wanting to take like this game that everybody changes in their own fashion, that everybody modifies the deck in their own way.
Yeah.
But you've really sort of like embraced it and ramped it up to 10 million%, and it's absolute joyous chaos. I mean, one thing I really love is like the different ways that people come up with ending the game. Because of course, the traditional way of ending the game is get rid of all of your cards before everybody else does, and then you win. Congratulations. But yeah, you've got introducing the blank points. Are there other ways of like of winning the game that you've put in?
We happened to have an impossible situation a few weeks ago, which was a coincidence, but there was about 4 cards that contributed to creating a weird situation where we'd played the Game Change card, so nobody could draw any cards, and then I'd managed to get rid of all my cards, but there's a card in the void, which we've not got to yet, but there's a void. There's a card in the void, which is called, I can't remember now, but essentially it says that if somebody wins, you've not won, you just draw 5 more cards, and that card is now removed from the void and is put into play. So if somebody wins, basically you've not won. You've won the first time round, but you've not actually won the game. You have to win again in order to win, essentially.
It's like confirming your victory,
Yeah, but it's specifically, I've been writing up a booklet of rules, and specifically in the booklet of rules, it says that if you can't draw 5 cards, you lose. So I was in a situation where I'd run out of cards. I had technically won, but that card said I had to draw 5 cards again. And I couldn't because there was the game change in play, which says I couldn't draw any cards. So I technically lost. But Neve, who was playing with me, had an exploding kitten and an annoying lemon in front of her, both of which say she can't win. So we kind of were in a situation where I clearly had not won, but she also couldn't win. So we decided we both lost in that situation, which seemed like the right way to do it, really.
I'm entirely okay with games where everybody loses once in a while. That's entirely fine.
What could be really fun, maybe you'll had it or not as you wish, but it could be to reverse the thing. Once you cannot pick up draw cards anymore, it's when you have no more cards, you explode and you lose. It's the reverse, you have to survive. You can't play cards, you explode. So it's completely game changing. The goal is not to discard anymore, it's the opposite. Well, okay, that was just to say because it popped in my mind.
That's fine.
We've loads of questions. People are going like, what the hell is going on? So I think we should try and answer some of them. Aqua's
we've got Aqua's one there. Did you have any sort of guidelines when deciding what can be added? Do you veto anything? Because the official ruling in the game is it's the person who owns the copy of the game
The owner,
who gets the final say.
Yeah. So so something that happened quite early on was that somebody we know, actually Mel, who used to play with us, he's moved away since, but he added a card that was, if somebody plays a 1, they get to add a new card into the game. And I thought, well, that's a bit overpowered, because obviously that means that we'll just write all the cards in one game, and there's no point, that's not fun. So originally I did remove that, I did take it out, but I thought that wasn't necessarily it felt bad just removing someone's idea from the game. So eventually we came up with a whole system called the Priest of Culhern, which I think we need to kind of get to. I mean, I don't want to just jump ahead, but which allowed me to then reinsert that card when it was safe to do so.
Okay. So we won't go into it too much then. So you basically, there was that kind of one opportunity up time, but you tried to kind of allow it in. And generally the rules, they're kind of pitched that you try and accommodate. So you can veto it, but the idea is that, and I've had to kind of do this with people, is stop them from writing on the card until they've discussed it with the players. Because people kind of grab the rule card and start to like write. I'm like, no, you have to, like, the kind of rules state you have to kind of have the agreement. And that's an opportunity to kind of massage the rules in a way that fits the intent of all the players. So sorry, I'm just going to jump through a few more questions.
Of course.
So Priscilla's saying, I can't imagine many people buying a boxed game like that, but I guess it makes it's much better when the group has ownership of that play style. Yeah, I mean, that's, you don't buy it to play on your own.
No.
Like this is definitely a collective experience.
So something I should mention is that I'm not the only person who's contributed to this deck. I've been working on it, and my fiancée Neve, who's back there, but she's also contributed a lot of cards.
Hi, Neve.
Yeah.
What up, Neve?
They can't really hear you, but she can't really hear you. But yeah. Also, my brothers have contributed cards, and many other people as well. So this is not just my work. This is many people coming together to do it. So you do need that group of people to do it together.
And I do have to share this from yours.
Yes.
And I think that's, for me, before we get back into it, the magic of Blank, even when we were kind of developing it. Do you remember, Michael, someone would come into the studio and say, I was playing Blank last night, and we created this new rule for the game. And everyone would just go, it's given me an idea. And then everyone wants to play Blank because they want to, like, add that idea to the game. And that, to me, is the magic of it. It makes you want to play again, because when you did, like, that idea, when you discover the Drums of Doom, you kind of go, is that possible? Oh, hang on a second, and you want to start. It gets you thinking about the game afterwards.
Well, the thing, it has a lot in common with. I remember when I was a young, between 15 and 20, we had a group of role-playing games in a community house, in a basement and all that, and we were inventing our own campaigns and rules and all that. And it was exactly that. One night there was this guy having an adventure, making a game for the others, and he was creating some part of the world that was reused by the other players on the other night. We were all creating things together, and I guess it's kind of getting from there, because this kind of experience is what it's. I like it. I love it.
Mm-hmm. There was one point where Neve and I we played probably 10 games in order to put in the right cards in to have different things happen. So there's like a lot, we had to like basically play a lot just to kind of add a load of cards together, and I would add a card and she would add a card just to make it work. And it's that kind of collaborative effort together of just like, okay, I'm going to play this card. If you add the next card, then that will make sense. And we had that, and that's quite fun, I think.
Well, most people would just add the card, so it makes me very happy that you actually followed the rules of the game.
Yeah, sticking to the letter of the rules, which is a lot of people wouldn't do. I'm still very proud of the one that I came up with at PAX, Rory, the boss battle card.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I like new and interesting ways of ending the game. So when we went to PAX in the States, which was very much like a video games focused show, but there was, there's a growing, there's a growing tabletop presence there. And I figured, well, okay, let's make something video game related. So one of the cards when it comes out is called Boss Battle, and it basically stops the game immediately, and you can start throwing cards at this boss battle, and it's got a certain amount of hit points. I think it's got like 40 hit points. So every card that you add on top of that, it takes hit points off of the boss, and whoever manages to do the final blow, whoever manages to take the last point of damage off the boss wins the game. But at the same time, you can also keep on playing standard blank as well at the same time. So I think I'll throw some cards over the side there instead.
That's what I was going to say, that because I remember a game where everyone was like intent on taking down the boss, and I just got rid of all my cards. I was like, I win.
It's just like I feel like super clever coming up with this thing. It's just sort of like all of a sudden Rory steps up and goes, "Oh yeah, but I've completely ignored what you've done." And it's like, yeah, well, just like Henri intended.
No, that's a great thing. That's just great. The boss thing, the boss idea is great.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the battle of the Doom drums. The battle of, I don't know how you named it.
The Doom,
yeah. It's just the card is in the deck, and for those people who know it, they can use it even if they do not have it in hand. So the deck is like a realm that you have to explore to know it, and I love that idea.
So whenever I play with people, I always say, don't try to win, just enjoy the chaos.
Just embrace.
This is a game you can't win.
Yeah. Honestly, I've been on one card for so long, and then I end up with like 27 cards, and then I win immediately afterwards. There's no way to know what you're doing, essentially. Victory
I think
comes...
the early game of Flux was a bit like that. I'm sure it should have been like that, the early game of Flux a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just not try to win, just enjoy the chaos, because it's just like that. It's basically chaos.
Mm-hmm.
I like how Aqua described it. It's game design the game, and that's a lot that we, that's kind of the vibe that we very much had in the studio when we were, first developing and making it the final product. It's just it's a game that encourages creation. It's a game that says, hey, do what you want. You can fix the problem later down the line. That's fine. But it's also it's not a game that really punishes, and that's super lovely. Well, I say it's not a game that really punishes.
You're punishing yourself because you added the rule in that punishes.
Yeah.
So
and there's a lot of penalties,
Mm-hmm. So
because Rory, did you have the one, Rory, that's like, oh, if you are the oldest, like one of the girls, but like if you're the oldest person. When this card is played, if you're the oldest person at the table, you get to draw cards, and then they were playing not their own.
It was a playtester. Yeah, there was a playtesting family where the kids made this rule to target the dad, and it would always say the oldest player must draw like 5 cards or whatever, and they thought this was hilarious until they played it one day when the dad wasn't playing, and the eldest boy was like, "Oh, okay," so. It taught them a lesson in like accuracy of your rules.
Well, it would have been quicker to say "dad" on the card.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's what you get for trying to be smart.
Yeah.
So Rob,
let's explore your realm a little bit more, Rob.
Yeah. Do you want me to
tell us about
the priests?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so
Jesus Christ.
Okay, I'm going to need to prepare for this, okay, because it's a long thing. So essentially, as I said before, it's a game between chaos and order, right? So the game is very chaotic, and you kind of do need some kind of balancing and something that can kind of adjust if there's any problems. If somebody adds a card which completely, utterly ruins the game, there's no point in playing, So you need some way to control that and to allow that to happen, but also have a way to control it. So we came up with something called the Priests of Culhern, Lord of the Void. Okay, so this is the reason why Neve and I spent a lot of time adding a load of cards, because the Priests of Culhern, Lord of the Void came about. Basically, what happens is if you play the game, there's a chance that you may be able to perform a ritual. So there's 5 bones in the deck. If you manage to play all 5 of the bones, amongst every player, and you manage to play the card, the Ritual, which is a rule card, then you have completed the ritual and you have summoned Calhoun, Lord of the Void. Okay? Now, if you summon Calhoun, Lord of the Void, Calhoun comes with its own set of rules, which I'm going to have to... Oh, I lost them. It's in a little booklet here. These are the rules of Calhoun, Lord of the Void. There's a lot, but basically, Calhoun, Lord of the Void is a card in himself. He's always in play. There's no way to target it. There's no way to destroy it. And Calhoun, Lord of the Void is kind of this benevolent, neutral kind of presence around the game. And there's a number of people who are choosing to be his priests. And if you complete the ritual, the reward is you get added to the list of priests of Calhoun, Lord of the Void. And the role of the priest is not one of power. You're not trying to, you're not overpowered. You don't get any kind of thing that would significantly alter the game. But your role is there to kind of mediate and make sure everything runs smoothly. So you've got certain actions you can perform once per game. Stuff like you can send a card to the void. So if someone plays a card which is not, someone has a card which is not really good, you can send it out. Yeah. So
sorry, it's you stay priest of Calhoun, Lord of the Void even the games after.
Oh yeah. You're always priest.
Perform the ritual once, and you're priest for the rest of your life.
Oh, but it is very difficult to perform the ritual.
Yeah, that's right. That was just to be sure. Okay.
So the ritual itself, if everyone who's playing wants to perform the ritual, you can probably force it. But if somebody's there trying to stop you, there's no way to do it. Essentially, they can always find a way to block you. And because again, this role isn't a role like. It's not there to be like, you're all powerful and everything like that. It's just to control what's happening. We don't really try to get more people in. So it's quite exclusive club. And yeah.
It's like a cult.
Yeah, it is like a cult in a way. Yeah. And you've got like lots of different actions. So obviously you have a meeting before the game, you shake your hands and then you have to, and you get an action. So you can do stuff like alter the text of a card, to maybe change it if needs be, avoid it, so remove it from the game temporarily. That can always come back, but avoid it. There's other stuff like you can add another deck to the game. So that's why we got 2 boxes. We ran out of the first box, but instead of just going, we're going to add another box in, we made it part of the rules that you could add the box in. And there's other stuff like that. There's other things you can do. Really, you can do edicts, which kind of add more rules and more decisions to what the priests can do, and you have to vote on certain things. So if you're adding something to the card of Calhoun, Lord of the Void, you have to call a meeting of all the priests of Calhoun, wherever they may be, and get them to vote on it. So there's all this chaos here, and to make it even more complicated, I decided that in order to make this kind of a bit more official, I should hire a lawyer. So I hired a lawyer to write a contract that all players have to abide to when they play the game. So they have to sign this contract. And this contract basically states that there is the priest of Calhoun. These are the roles they have. These are the actions they can perform. And, if you're playing the game, you have to abide by these laws. You can't just try and target the priests and this kind of stuff. That's all kind of banned. So starting from a game of Uno, We've created a cult, essentially, which is quite fun.
I would like to know, how many priests are there in your current pantheon?
Yeah. So at the moment, there are 3 priests. There's myself, there's Neve, my fiance, and my little brother, Rafe. We're the only 3 who managed to get this role. Again, we're not against people getting a role. Like, we're not actively trying to stop people. It's just the more people there are, the more chaotic it will get. So it's that kind of control.
You actually sound like a real religion.
No.
Are you planning to extend the cult of Calhoun, the Lord of the Void, overseas or somewhere over the internet?
Okay, yeah, I want to see. I want to see a cardinal of Calhoun.
So actually, if I may say,
to see if me or some boys over there could become priest of Calhoun.
So actually, if I may, this is probably a good moment to do this, but we played some games of Blank recently, and I passed a new edict number 3. And edict number 3 says that the priest of Calhoun recognize the role of honorary priest of Calhoun An honorary priest may not vote in decisions, but retains the title and may perform an action when playing a game. At any point, a priest of Culhern may nominate an honorary priest, which must be accepted by a majority of the priests of Culhern. So I would like to take this moment, seeing that we're all here, to offer you an honorary priest of Culhern position to all three of you, seeing that you're all here.
Oh, I'm hugely honored. I'm really honored. Yeah. And yes, of course, I accept to be.
Okay, I do need to consult the other priests, obviously, because that's part of the rules.
Sure. And maybe I should see the contract first. Maybe.
Yeah.
Do we have to sacrifice something, or?
I think I've been told the contract will be ready this weekend, so I'll send it to you. But just you're formally invited, and I'll make sure on my end this is all accepted.
Well, I mean, Rob, you can literally just shout at Neve and go, "Oi, Neve is okay if Henri is a priest."
I mean, sorry, if you see properly in the card of the priest of Culhern, it says that if you're doing an edict, every priest must be contacted if possible. That's 24 hours to accept or refuse the edict. So I need to contact my by law. Well, not by law yet, but by law soon.
By law as of Saturday.
Yeah.
So, mechanically, those edicts, are they technically rules that are being added when someone wins the game?
So mechanically, what's happening is you've got one card. I'll find it. So there's an actual card for the. Yeah, here we go. So this card is Culhern, Lord of the Void. It's an actual card, and it comes with an attached description, which is that other sheet of paper I showed you. Yeah. This one here. So this sheet of paper, one of the first things it says, it's basically it's part of that card. It's just written separately, but it is still that card. And all the edicts are passed through that card, and I guess technically are also part of that card. So although this is the physical card, we've also got all the rules attached to that card. So it's still all in play. It's all technically still part of the game.
If I may, the really great thing, if you have to, what do you call the priests that write the books, with gold inkers in the medieval times?
Scribes, I think.
Scribes, yeah.
I know what you mean.
Scribe work. Maybe you could take a rule card and have a scroll the size of the card,
That's a good point.
Yeah,
great things. So the card fits in the box. It's it's legit. It's legal. It fits in the box.
We'll get you some vellum and what was it? Illumination. That's what it is. When the scribes do their thing.
I could stick this onto it. I guess that would work, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. But with a scroll, that would be better.
Yeah, make it look fancy,
But it kind of strikes me, you need to get like a packet of Rizla and join them all together and create that really fine paper and then roll it all up.
Oh my
god. I've always wanted to do that where you scroll.
Was never meant to be smoked, Rory,
Well, it's really fine paper, so it would roll up quite tight.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
So so I don't want to distract you from where you're going, but I do remember you mentioning you had was it accurate? You had Magic the Gathering cards or other games components for other games.
So it's something we've been trying to do to add cards from other games. So we got Magic the Gathering cards, which kind of work. So on the card itself, it says works as Magic the Gathering, so you can attack and defend with them. And the attack is how many cards that player will have to draw if they're attacked with that card, and that's the idea. And you can actually have fights. You can have fights between cards. There's only a few of them, so it tends to be one player gets it, and therefore they start attacking someone, and then the other person gets another one, which is a defender but is stronger, so they block them, and that kind of evens out. But there's also other things like my brother added a card which is an equipment card, which attaches itself to a card already in play, and then that's now a creature that can attack. So there's weird things like that. But then we also got Monopoly cards. So this is Kipper Street, and the fun thing of these is that it's got a back as well, so you can mortgage a card. And that's actually quite a good mechanic, because you basically can turn the card round, throw away a card, and that's you mortgaging it. And then you can unmortgage it by turning around and drawing a card. So it's a good way to get rid of cards you don't want and kind of go through them.
Wow.
There's everything. Like honestly, we've got Pandemic as well. Yeah, where you have to work together to get rid of the cards 1 to 6.
Now that is that from the Blankdemic expansion, or is that
No,
just stuff that you drew in
that's our
yourself?
version. It's our version. But yeah, no, I mean it's obviously inspired by the game Pandemic, and I know there's the expansion. So
the incredible thing would be to be able to include actual cards from these games in the main game.
I've been trying to think of ways to do it, and it will happen eventually. I just haven't found the right card to add in and the right thing to add in. But yeah, it will definitely happen. Don't worry.
It would be great. It would be awesome.
Yeah. I want to put some. Right, we should play it, and then I want to throw some holding on Trouble Life of Billy Kerr memories into there. And it's like you feel happy. Grab 3 more, lose 3 cards.
As long as you have a number on the card, it could fit some way, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
As long as you have a number.
Well, it doesn't have to. It couldn't be played. Like I think if you have a rule card come out that say Magic is now active in this game, for example.
Yeah.
You know, randomly shuffle 5 cards from this other deck into the draw pile.
Yeah, sure, but it could be difficult for other games. You know, Magic. I see what you mean. Seems very clever to include the combat thing and all that. I guess it has to work very well. But from Pandemic or Monopoly, you know, put a real card of Monopoly in the blank deck would be great. But how do you use it when you draw it? What do you do with it?
Mm-hmm. Well,
that's nice because you could just alter, you know, because you are altering cards when you win. You can alter it however you like to modify and introduce it in, couldn't you?
Yeah.
There is definitely. I mean, this is the thing. Again, it's all about the system. So because we've got the Priest of Calhern, you've got a way to get cards in from outside first of all, which are so that's the rules coming in, and then once it's inside, when you say you can write a rule card, it doesn't say it has to be a blank card. It can be any card that's in the deck. So in theory, that is the way to do it. I don't know what you would do in the meantime while the card is still in there. I don't know how it would work, but
it becomes a dead.
You could void it for a while.
It becomes a dead card, so you would end up not being able to win with it because you can't play it. So you're always going to be stuck with that.
Yeah, but you could mortgage it. You could mortgage something to play it away.
Yeah.
So you'd have to use the rules within the game itself as it stands.
So if a card
to get
says
rid of stuff,
if a card says discard a card.
And it's stuff like we worked out like
with the cards, you create cards to make it possible, just like with like you said with your friend.
Yeah, so you just make it work somehow and fit it in. And the good thing is that there is ways to get rid of cards like stuff like the Drums of Doom. It says destroy card, and we worked out quite quickly that it didn't say you couldn't destroy cards in your own hand. So if you had cards you don't want in your hand, you can use that to destroy your cards there. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I like. Coming back to that, actually, one of the most recent things I started doing is creating cards like this one, which is a 7 black.
Yeah.
And obviously you can't play a 7 black. There's no way to play the 7 black. You have to destroy it. Or actually, there's one specific circumstance where this will work, where we've got something called Robot Run, where if you add 2 cards together, you basically have to add 2 cards together to make the number there, and you throw multiple cards away. So if you had a 7 black and there's a card which is a -1 black, and you put them together, you could technically play it as a 6. So that's the only way you could get rid of that card, except obviously destroying it.
Okay.
I mean, it works.
In your boss battle, it would work too. You just count the numbers.
Yeah. So it would become really helpful in that. Yoss is saying, he was saying you can strip the backs of the blank cards and actually paste the new card on front of it. So then it's actually completely hidden. It's like separating the 2 cards and then putting them.
I just want to see someone's face when they're like just doing, like just playing, and then suddenly like a 4 of spades.
Yeah, like Oxford Street and Era Walk. Okay.
That would be just great.
It's got me thinking about Pokemon.
Pokemon cards, yeah.
Totally nonsense, but I wonder how many times it would make to make it to make sense, you know, for new people who play that game with all cards from all the games, and how many games would it cost? 3, 4 to make it all sense, you know?
So in the current form of the game you would have to have let me check a sec, because it depends what the wording is on the rules of the Lord of Culhern.
So
You have an answer to my question?
I do. Just need to find it, because there is a thing about adding a deck. So no, it says add a new deck of blank to the void, so it couldn't be a deck of anything. So you'd have to have one turn to add a new action for the Priest of Culhern. So that's one priest action. Then you have a second priest to actually add the deck in, or the card in. And then you would, well, it's up to you. You can either have that game and keep the card in, and then change the rule at the end of that round. So technically two turns, two games. Or if you want to void it and then return it back, 3 games, I think. Or alternatively, if you're playing with 2 priests, you could do it in 1.
Yeah, it's a special ceremony, and with 3 priests you invoke the game just in 1 game. Okay. And no goats involved. Okay.
Yeah.
Sacrificing. Yoss has a question. With the current state of the world, any ideas how to play blank over a stream? As the masters of this craft, I mean, you would have to just introduce sort of rules, I think, to have it. Oh, how would you do it?
You have to play with a common deck of cards. It can be played. You have to have a tool like Tabletop Simulator or Tabletopia or anything. You can play.
I think I'd have to think through it. I think there's a way where you would want to work on the fact that everybody is remote. I think would have to be the kind of foundation of it. So I see some of them are talking about using TTS. If you were to use something like Tabletop Simulator, it could be a core of the game, but then you're actually having everyone else play with. I would almost use that as there's a common element there, but everyone's still customizing their cards at their end, and trying to incorporate that into the gameplay. So the core deck that's on TTS isn't necessarily changing. And it could be before the game, everybody holds up a rule card.
How do you play on the same,
onto the same discard?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I think you'd need to have like one person with the camera focused on, like, and everybody be essentially playing with like hands face up.
No, what I'm saying is if you play it, I have to do it more. But if you play with a core game that isn't necessarily changing on TTS, but you're designing the game almost like around the fixed nature of that. So people are customizing things on their deck at their end, and maybe it's all about revealing cards to other players on the stream. So you're kind of combining the video aspect with what's happening in that space. Could be a way to do it.
I think that's the thing. You'd theme your deck around that, wouldn't you? You'd say, if I don't know, but yeah, that's the thing. You can do whatever you want. It's so creative. You can come up with any kind of idea, and I think you can definitely incorporate the fact that you're at a distance to, you can have people guessing other people's cards and that kind of stuff, and having to reveal certain cards at certain points. I think you can make it quite fun. It's a tricky one for the communal, discard pile stuff.
It'd actually be really interesting. Sorry, Henri, to work it out as almost like a kind of a version of bingo or something, where one player is like the host of the game and revealing cards for different players. So just changing the kind of the mechanic or the win condition, but again, it's allowing people to kind of customize those cards.
Yeah, but only one player is making all the moves. I like the idea to have a hand and make choices. But maybe it could come up end up with a game where there is not only one discard for one common discard, but each player has his own discard. And you have to remember the card played. Maybe if we just reorient our cameras so that we do not have to show our card each. It could work because you remember you play on your own discard. The game could be fluid like that, maybe.
It could. Well, I think you could. One way you could do it is if you got the cards in your hand and the deck there, and once you've discarded, when it comes back around to you, you just turn the top card of the deck on top of your discard. I mean, that's the easiest mechanic to get like 4 decks working together. You're not following on somebody else necessarily, but you're still interacting by saying draw 2 cards, do this.
Yeah, well, maybe it would work. You should not lose the interaction with the other one playing cards. There are a lot of rule cards in Blank that are used as if the previous card is a purple, if the next card is etc. etc. I think if it's solo games played together, I don't know. Maybe it could work. I don't know. Maybe, but. We're missing something. No.
Well, the point of the game is to be creative and imaginative. So, I mean, it's up to everyone to come up with a way to make it work, isn't it? It's not up to us. That's the point. We're not telling you how to play the game.
Question. I don't know.
Jos. So Jos has I think he bought 12 copies of Blank. I know he has 6 on hand.
Okay, just one tango, and you know what? Make it. Just make it. That's your job.
Make it happen, Jos.
I think part of it is the fun of Blank is kind of starting with something that's a little bit hokey and doesn't quite work. And it's like when you play make that first attempt, and when that doesn't quite work, you create a new rule because you'll know better having actually tried to play that version of it. Then make a new rule that kind of addresses what was happening in that game to incorporate that into the next gameplay experience, and almost treat playing Blank as you developing the online version of Blank, and then you can kind of revisit again.
The worst thing you can do is plan ahead. I think you just have to add cards and just go, okay, that has an interesting interaction that works very well. If you try and plan the entire thing to start off with, it's just going to be a bit boring. But if you add cards one at a time and slowly try to make it work, eventually it will work. Not how you expect it to, but it will.
Well, what's fun? What is fun is that's typically the contrary of what we usually do in game design. What I tell to my students is, do not do that. Do not create a new rule to balance an existing rule that is broken. Modify the original rule that is broken. We understand that in the process of playing the game and creating rules, that's more fun. Of course, you're right, Rob. Of course, and it will be boring. Well, it's game design. It's a job. But sometimes it's a bit boring. But.
So I'm watching the clock. It's 20 after 8 here. So I'm just checking, is there any other opportunity for last questions, I guess, from the chat? And Rob, is there any, I want to get kind of any last cards from you, and Henri, then your kind of final response to what you've witnessed as well.
I'll show you one of my favorite. I'll show you the last card. I'll show you is my favorite card. It came up quite early on, and it's not fun because it doesn't really add into a lot of other stuff. But I always get a laugh out of it because it's great when someone else gets it. When you get it, it just messes with your head. And it's this card here, Confusion. Confusion is technically a 5 purple, but it says this card is actually the blue 3. Unless the last card played is a 1 or 2, in which case it's a pink 6. And I guarantee you, whenever you get this card, you look at it and go, oh no. And someone is under Confusion too as well. It's great. Very simple. It doesn't, it's not like too chaotic, but every time you get it, you're like, oh, when am I going to play this?
It's just enough to make your brain start screaming in the middle of the night.
That's when you summon the drums of doom.
Get this thing out of here. So we do have a question from Aqua, which is aside from Rob's incredible version, what is the best rule stroke card you've seen out in the wild?
Well, we had a contest here in my city when Blank were released in French. We made a contest with the local game store for a lot of people to create new rules, and we elected the best ones. And there was one that I remember. It's I want to say it well. if another player cross your eyes, your look, then you can give him a card.
Oh, that's so subtle but really mean.
Yeah, I let you imagine.
Just sitting there, eyes closed, like,
That's
that'll
great.
do.
That's just great. It's a great rule. That's the only one I remember. There was a lot of it, but I do not remember them all. This one stayed in my mind.
Rory, any that spring to mind from our many adventures?
I think there's a bunch of them. There's two that kind of stick with me. One is if you win this game of blank, you may nominate another player, and they must make everybody a cup of tea. So you play after you've had it afterwards. And the other one comes from my daughter, and I love it because it's got that same meta game element to it, and it's if a player says yes or no in any language, they take a penalty. And there was a moment when we were out for dinner as a family, and we were playing, and Niamh said to Anita, "So is it your turn?" And she went, "Yes." "No." "Oh no, crap!" And like I had to draw 3 cards.
Yes, that's a great.
Oh, it's all good. Rob, what's your favourite one that you didn't personally create?
Oh God, I quite like. There's a very simple one. My little brother, when he was 6, he came up with a card which was called Flu, and it just says you skip 6 goes. Incredibly brutal.
Oh,
incredibly brutal and so simple, but you skip 6 goes. That's it. You play it. Skip 6 goes.
6
and
what?
So you skip 6 turns.
Miss 6 turns. That's horrible.
It is horrible, and it's a child who came up with this. He was 6, and he came up, and he wasn't targeting anyone. He could easily have got it himself. And that was a horrible card. Yeah.
Some people just want to watch the world burn, I guess, and
That's
your little brother is one of them.
and in this version, it doesn't come up much anymore because you destroy cards and you throw away cards easily. But every now and then, you're stuck with it, and you have to play it, and you're there like, damn it, 6 turns.
Maybe you should not give him the power to be a priest of Kaloum.
Yeah, it was a mistake.
Yeah, can the priesthood be revoked?
No, not legally yet.
You're going to need another lawyer document to
I will,
remove the powers from people.
So Priscilla says, imagine if he'd been 8.
23.
Yep.
Oh, that's so good.
And yes, Yoss has noticed because we actually have we're calling it Blank 2.0, but it's kind of actually a revised edition of Blank that we're planning for kind of mass retail and a couple of other places. And we've taken this opportunity to tweak some of the cards within the game and allow people to customize the game straight out of the box. So, and it is actually available. I should dig out the link before we finish, where you can basically go and sign up to play test it. But the yes/no card has actually made it in as one of the rules in the revised edition because it was just such a hit.
I don't remember well, but I'm very sad because I think I remember that the snail is not here anymore. Is that true, Rory? I don't remember well.
It is true.
It was one of my favorite cards.
So weird playing with that at
I love it.
at conventions. Like playing with that, it's just like, okay, so that card means that you are not allowed to do anything at normal speed anymore, and it's just like, well, and it's like everybody just being the arbiter of deciding, okay, no, that's too fast. No, slow that down.
It's great. I loved it. But anyway.
You'd be surprised how many times the Drums of Doom has been called for that specific card.
I mean, there's still an opportunity to make it back in if there's enough demand.
Well, if you want it, just draw it up yourself and put it in the deck. Yoss has dropped the form into the chat. You want to go and have a look at it there?
He beat me to it. I just had it.
But yeah, Aqua, it's a great and like all the best blank cards, utterly horrible innovation in the game.
We actually had one that says "Speak like a robot" that my brother had created as well, and it was a nightmare when you got them. Or someone created one which says you have to speak like a sports commentator.
I did the wrestling commentator one.
Come on, you can play. Oh, he's playing it.
Yes, but you have to do it with the snail voice. So then you're like,
my
God,
goodness.
Michael's about to play a red card.
Surely that's just normal speed, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, Henri, you've borne witness to the abomination that Rob has created. This Frankenstein's monster. Will you punish him or will you praise him?
Oh no, it has to be praised. Yeah, you have to be honored. Thank you very much for this creation. It's just great. It's awesome. Thank you very much.
And I will be in contact about the honorary priest position with all.
Yeah, sure. I intend. Yeah, sure.
I think, Henri, I picture you hanging up and going to your chamber and burning all of your notes to do with blank. What have I created?
What have I done?
That's it. It cannot be perfected any further. It is too good now. Too good. Oh, man. Well, guys, thank you very much for joining us. We truly appreciate it. Henri, it is an absolute pleasure to catch up with you and say hi. Rob, hopefully we'll get to see you in real life sooner rather than later.
We'll have to play next time we see you.
Yeah. I've got some ideas. Like I'll wander in and I'll sort of like suddenly take out some cards from my inside pocket from like, various things that I've designed. There will be a Mega City card included at some point where you have to build cards on top of each other.
Yes.
And then transport it across the table.
Nice.
Henri, is there anything new, any new games you have that you want to kind of pitch to viewers before we go?
What from any upcoming games or what?
Yeah, anything new coming out?
No, certainly not. I got no upcoming games. No one, zero, and that's intended.
You've been busy with work and teaching.
No, just I don't want to. Well, that's not the moment to discuss about that. But don't want to make games anymore. Because it's going to be political and things about climate change, and I don't want to ruin this good moment because we have lost thought. So that's okay. That's okay. The next games I will be making will be in wood in my garage, or if they are going to be manufactured, it's not more than 100 kilometers from my home. So
cool.
No more games.
What a shame.
So, when you've given us the perfect game, what more do we need to ask for? Rob, what about you? What are you up to? I know you are still super busy with study stuff as well.
I've got a Viva in 12 days or something like that. So yeah, that's the thing at the moment. Yeah. And
then you're allowed to perform surgery, as we mentioned on Facebook yesterday.
Yeah.
That's what doctors do. Apparently,
if you're a doctor, you can operate on people. That's why I did it. The fact it's archaeology doesn't matter, does it?
No.
That just means that you can only operate on skeletons.
Well, somebody said that I can operate on very, very dead people. I wanted to respond with, well, they will be definitely afterwards, that's for sure.
Yeah, if they went beforehand. You just have to storm in and say, don't you know who I am? I'm a doctor. Yeah. And just push your way through into the
Just go on lots of aeroplanes and hope that somebody says, oh, is there a doctor here? And it's just like, yes, hello.
I can tell this is probably a female from the pelvis.
They're definitely sick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, with that, we are out of here. Rory and I, of course, will be back on Friday. Are we Prisma Arena Ring again, Rory?
Yes, I think there was some more testing that we wanted to do with combo cards.
Cool. Looking forward to that. And then who do we have for next week's guests? I can't remember.
We have Will and Cole from
Drive Check
podcast. And also Will is a huge Pokemon aficionado. How do I pronounce it?
Aficionado.
And has been kind of podcasting about it for years. So we'll be talking kind of TCGs, I think the upcoming Cardfight Vanguard and Pokemon, I'm sure. We'll be schooled.
Cool. There's actually a bunch of TCGs coming up that I would actually like to talk to them about. 'Cause, like, there's a new Digimon one coming out, a few other sort of like weird and wonderful ones coming from Japan. So I think that's going to be, as ever, an excellent conversation. Folks watching us live or watching us on catch up, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Something to keep an eye out for as well. I'm in the process of turning every single Hub Games Hangout into a podcast. Oh, it's taking its time. I started it today, and it's just like, oh god, these files. But yeah, it's going to be happening. So we'll have some more information on that hopefully next week once I've got a few things up and running. But for now, thank you very much indeed for joining us, and we will catch up with you again very, very soon. See you later on.